These are the many groups of people in this world that I have been able to have thought-provoking conversations with that overall didn't lead to personal feelings being involved. These people possess a level of spiritual discernment according to their own beliefs and religion. 4 of these groups are in the 2 main opposing kingdoms. I also find all of these groups to mainly be respectful of themselves and other beliefs as well. 2 of these groups center who they are and what they do and believe using only human logic, self-awareness, and emotional intelligence without the intervention of a supernatural being. One of these groups is often accused of making wrong decisions in their life as the result of using wrong discernment. Some of these other groups are true to what it is they practice, as usually it stems from traditionalism or zeal. Some, specifically occultists, are knowledgeable about the occult. The rest usually try and front run a discussion by saying you're trying to convert them, when, at least speaking for myself, I would never waste my time doing so. Although I have successfully done this a few times in the past, I don't regret doing so. They also can possess a little understanding of esoteric teachings, specifically dark esotericism. I've noticed that many members in these groups aren't passionate about what it is they practice. It is simply a stance they take to signify they are anti-Abrahamic religions when having a debate on theological beliefs. I guarantee you that most of these people who claim to be demonologists and devil worshippers watch this channel for information and then apply it in their practices, not knowing that I've only given limited information. Fools. The real ones know that I've barely scratched the surface. The real ones also know that the book The Lesser Key of Solomon gives very limited information as well. Who would relay that information to the public anyways? Everything shouldn't be for public consumption. Some of those groups in the second slide make me feel sick on the inside when I hear them speak. However, this deep seething disapproval isn't out of fear, but actually out of disgust. I'd also like to add that just about all 5 of those previous groups also conflate Catholicism with all of what has happened within Christianity as a whole, unable to see the clear differences between the Protestant saints and what the Catholic Church has done to not only first century Christians, but also Muslims, Jews, and other groups as well. They also failed to mention that the Catholic Church also wrote its version of the Holy Bible, thereby creating its own version of Christianity. Mindless heathens think that the Catholic Church speaks for all those who serve Christ. Catholics pray to Mary, who is recognized in Catholicism as a figure of intercession, not a figure of praise. American Christian denominations and Protestants recognize Jesus as the mediator between God and mankind. That's a clear difference. So they're not the same, you fool. Using the testament of what King James VI did to the Holy Bible as a point for an argument is played out and pointless, as what he did helps that specific belief, not hinder it. Then again, these same mindless folk who use these same tired talking points usually think there's some sort of God. Many of them also think there are no differences outside of what is found on the internet between Satanists, Luciferians, and individual devil worshippers as well. So you can see why they internally turn me completely off. Let me tell you all about what King James actually did to the Holy Bible. The King James Version of the Bible was also called the Authorized Version because the translation was authorized by King James I of England. The preface of the KJV dedicates the work, quote, to the highest and mighty Prince James, by the grace of God, King of Great Britain, France, and Ireland, defender of the faith. Before ruling England, James was King James VI of Scotland. It was not until 1603, upon the death of Queen Elizabeth I, that the kingdoms of Scotland and England were united and James became King James I of England. the first of the Stuart line. Mary, Queen of Scots, gave birth to her son James in 1566 in Scotland. In June 1567, the Protestant lords rebelled against their queen. They arrested and imprisoned Mary in Lochleven Castle, where she was forced to abdicate the throne of Scotland. James was thus only a year old when he became King James VI, King of Scotland in 1567. Despite his mother's Catholic faith, James was brought up in the Protestant religion. He was educated by men who had empathy for the Presbyterian Church. King Henry IV of France called James, quote, the wisest fool in Christendom. Although intelligent and well-educated, James was unpopular and he made many enemies, especially in Parliament. James was seen as uncouth, and there is evidence that he was bisexual. He often wrote against the power of the Pope and against Catholicism's meddling in affairs of state. In his opposition to the Pope's power, James promoted the divine right of kings, the idea that kings are accountable to God and no one else. In 1605, a group of Catholics attempted to assassinate James and his wife and son and to blow up Parliament. However, the gunpowder plot was foiled. That incident is remembered today as the Guy Fawkes Day. The Scottish Reformation was completed before the English Reformation. The Puritans and Scottish Presbyterians wanted a new Bible that would get as far away as possible from the structure of the Bishop's Bible of the Anglican Church, and the idea of a new translation of the Bible was first proposed at a religious conference in Fife. King James was in favor of a new translation. He didn't care for Tyndale's translation of Matthew chapter 16 verse 18, which it said Christ would build his congregation on Peter. The only other alternative at the time was the 1560s Geneva Bible, but King James objected to a treasonable annotation on Matthew chapter 2 verse 20 that suggested that kings were tyrants. In 1604, King James convened the Hampton Court Conference and authorized the start of a new translation of the Bible into English. The objective was to have one standard version of the Bible to be used across all English-speaking parishes. The task of translation was undertaken by 47 scholars, taken from a cross-section of Jacobean England. Many of them were highly skilled in ancient languages. The King James authorized version of the Bible was finished in 1611, just 85 years after the first translation of the New Testament in English appeared. You people think you're so wise to point out false inconsistencies in religious history. I'm willing to bet many of you aren't even consistent in your daily life. The Catholic Church didn't want those who didn't speak Latin to even read the Bible, which is why they kept it in that specific language. This is why the Protestant Reformation happened. You really need to do your research on Martin Luther as well as his partners Andreas and Philip as well. I can never give any fool love or respect, let alone mercy. I try not to even look them in the eyes, actually. I don't even want to signal to them that I'm willing to speak to them. I'm a demonologist by way of education and experience. I have had traffic with these demonic spirits, and I've already claimed this many times. I offer no apologies for my words in these videos, and what I know is rooted in certainty, not hope, belief, and expectation. There was a man whom I was getting to know some time ago. He claimed to have known many secrets that mankind needed to know. Now, he said the word need, so if it's a need, then it's a necessity. I then asked him to tell me what it is humanity should know. After a while, I realized this man was suffering from a condition called dissociative disorder. The man had multiple personalities and very few, if any, friends. He was Muslim one day and atheist the next. I found him to be highly unremarkable. He was smart, but he had many mental issues. He was often incoherent and claimed many fantastical things. This is what you call fantastical thinking, sometimes known as wishful thinking. Mankind is divided and always will be. I've said this to you all many times already. However, many of mankind seek to be accepted. Let me break it down for you. When you stand for what you believe in or are fighting for, shame must be left behind. You must not falter when taking your stance on your beliefs. I've looked at you all and I've taken a look at this injustice-filled world, and I've realized something. Many people lack courage. Many of you cower in fear and anxiety when someone shoots down what it is you say you believe. If a slanderous dog opened their mouth and said there is no God, or said your God is dead, if you have a God, how would you respond? Would your response be peaceful or assertive? Would you become aggressive or not? Would you become passive aggressive? You see, what the mocking fool will do is try and bait you into a profanity-filled argument. These undiscerning fools have no root inside of themselves, so they seek to uproot you to prove you wrong. If it isn't that, they will mindlessly accuse you of mixing truth and lies. This is a tactic where they try and give you a false sense of credibility while simultaneously having contempt for you and your beliefs. Many also fail in telling you what the lies are. So essentially, they try to tear you down using false, empty, and mindless claims. They'll use all the usual tactics. The main thing they all enjoy doing is deflecting a question being asked with an outside fact, not about the discussion. When you hear this, immediately call them out for what they're doing and then end the conversation. Do not show them patience and don't ever talk to them again about this specific topic. You ask them a question that challenges their thinking on your beliefs or theirs, and they started talking about Isaac Newton's law of gravity. Another tactic the heathen uses is using sacred text to judge and or denounce actions you've committed or words you've spoken. The very words they speak against and curse are then used by the rootless to hold you accountable. A heathen cannot hold you accountable to words and a lifestyle they do not practice. When they do this, simply laugh or remain silent. I'm speaking to members of all beliefs when I say this, save the ones I showed you all in that second slide. Now back to the point that I was making earlier. You see, one says that religion isn't the issue, it's just part of the problem. Yet this is the same being who couldn't offer you any solutions as those words leave their mouth. Breaking free from religion is fine for you. Go ahead and do it. I've already talked about that in one of my last videos and I will not be discussing it again. What I will say to the ones who say that it is a problem is that instead of you walking around this world with built up dismissiveness and frustration about other people's beliefs, you really should be paying attention to what is going on around you. A solution has already been given. The introduction is on the horizon. You see, me knowing that you're a naive lot who's willing to do and accept anything for peace in this world, you'll accept things that strictly go against your morals and principles as well. The ecumenical movement is the solution to what it is you claim to be a problem. But you see, this type of movement, this type of solution will be short-lived anyways. What mankind has been pushing for quite some time now is that all on earth who are religious and spiritual pray to the same God or gods and all perform similar practices that have been created by this one God or many different gods. This wave of toxic positivity and false unity is setting up the stage to present an inevitable one-world religion. You see, in this new age, in the 21st century, something like that can be accomplished. This will be a temporary success because you people are unable to respect each other and refrain from violence and sowing dissension when practicing your own beliefs. You people have been and still are unable to watch your slanderous mouth and profanity-filled tongue, so you fools have caused this movement to now come close to reaching fruition. But the truth is, I know many of you will accept it because most of you will accept anything. This type of one-world religious movement is perfect for the pagans and others as well. Even better for those who take no stance at all. Those who seek to bring about such a movement desire for there to be an internal wipe of the mind and the heart of all things considered sacred in this world. Not only that, but other materials as well, such as books, websites, and organizations as well. Those who study linguistics love to boast about how religious texts are written by a man or mankind as a whole. Has anyone informed these fools that we already know that these texts were written by man? All of these texts and all of these ancient writings were written by mankind, you imbecile. That isn't the point. The point is the spiritual motivation behind these writings, the spiritual inspiration, not whatever university or online website you attended to earn your little linguistics degree. That has nothing to do with theology or spiritualism. This is why I tell you all to stop having conversations with these types of closed-minded people when discussing these topics. It isn't that they don't know. They don't want to know what it is you know. And they want to tear you away from what it is you know by sowing doubt and giving you worldly statistics on the falling percentages of worldly participation in specific religious beliefs. Little do these blind bats know that what they are doing is verbally fulfilling prophecy in the midst of their disgusting pride. Makes me sick. I teach satanic doctrine, and I teach dark esotericism, which is usually closely associated with demonology and Satanism. I do not talk about Satan by metaphorically referring to him. I refer to him and talk about him in a literal way, as a real existing supernatural being. The Satanic Temple is a non-theistic religious organization that does not believe in the existence of Satan as a literal being. This temple views Satan as a metaphorical figure that represents rebellion against tyranny and oppression, the pursuit of knowledge and personal freedom, and individualism. A silly occultist was telling my subscribers to be careful of me, calling me a devil worshiper. What a fool. Many others compare my name to the most famous 20th century occultist. Don't ever compare me to him. I differ in more ways than one, but I can confirm that things he knew and did are real. His teachings and knowledge compared to mine are still different. This channel was dedicated to proving the existence of Satan and his demonic servants. I do not care about any negative mental reservations or outright criticism from those who practice witchcraft, occultism, paganism, this or that, or whatever you put into practice. None of that has anything to do with what I'm trying to accomplish.
Just saying I'm the man, facts bro, lot of haters, tell me where they at, I'm the new pop, all I do is rap.